and welcome back to my channel and another review. Today, you already know what the review is. I'm reviewing Dolittle, and despite probably many of the other reviews you have more than likely watched, I'm not here to trash the film. I'll tell you right now, it's gonna be a glowing, positive review because I freaking love this movie. I mean, if you didn't, that's fine. We all have different opinions, but I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's an Australian thing. I'm thinking maybe all us Aussies are enjoying it and Americans are hating it. I don't know, but everybody seemed to be hating it and I just don't understand why. Just want to say at the moment I have more stuff going on my Patreon, letting my patrons be more involved in the content that I put out. If you are interested in supporting me and supporting my channel and want to be involved in that process, then you can join my Patreon. There will be a link in the description box below, or you can just click this little notification up here, entirely up to you. You don't have to. This isn't, you know, mandatory. It even feels weird even suggesting it, but it's there. It's an option. You can go and check it out and see if there's anything there that you are interested in. If not, all good. But let's get into today's review and why I like Dolittle. Dolittle is a 2020 American fantasy adventure film directed by Stephen Gaghan from a screenplay by Gaghan, Dan Greger, and Doug Mann, with story by Thomas Shepard based on the Dr. Dolittle series of children's books by Hugh Lofting. It's a reboot of the Dr. Dolittle films and sees a famed doctor and veterinarian turned hermit forced to set sail on an epic adventure to a mythical island, regaining his wit and courage as he crosses old adversaries and encounters wondrous creatures. After the first trailer, I was quite eager to see this film. Robert Downey Jr. and talking animals, I mean, sign me up. This film did not disappoint me, and based on what I observed among my fellow cinema goers, neither did they. It's school holidays here in Australia, and I made the unwise decision to go an afternoon session, which I never do. Kids galore, you couldn't avoid them, but after that fact, I'm actually quite glad I went when I did. As I mentioned in the past, I like to, during the movie, glance around and see how others are reacting to the film. Safe to say this time around, the packed cinema was having a wonderful time. Adults all around me were smiling, children all around me were smiling and pointing, and everyone was laughing their heads off, especially me. This is not an exaggeration. If you get to go to a film and have an experience like that where everyone is enjoying themselves, it makes the experience all the richer. Usually I hate hearing people talking during movies, but hearing children make the most adorable comments in regards to this film, echoing my own thoughts as I'm a big kid at heart, just made it even more fantastic. There were awes and wows at every turn. I even shed a couple of tears, nowhere near as many as when I saw Just Mercy, but just enough to demonstrate this film has heart. While I won't say I love the accent Robert Downey Jr. chose for his portrayal of Dr. John Dolittle, it never entirely grew on me, but it did become palatable at least. It sounded as though RDJ had chosen to combine every accent from all regions of England and combine them into one. It was most confusing, and at times I couldn't even understand him. He was easier to understand at times when he was speaking gorilla. This little fact aside, I loved his character and his story. They didn't just make him some random guy who has some superpower and call it a day. They made him a man with a backstory and gave him real relatable qualities. He's a man who doesn't have the power to speak to animals, but more he's a compassionate human being who loves animals so much that he took the time to study and understand their languages, which is far more beautiful in my opinion. His tale is a tragic one. While he is surrounded by animals who are his friends, he is very lonely and suffers from a broken heart. His journey in this film is not just one of adventure, but one of dealing with his grief, moving on with his life, and returning to the world he had left behind. It was heartwarming with lovely messages to tug at the heartstrings. The actors who appeared, and I mean actually appeared in this film, took me by complete surprise. I love that each character has a connection to Dolittle and his past and aren't just random people, but people who help tell his story and make the film's story far more interesting. Michael Sheen plays Dr. Blair Mudfly, the villain of the film. He sees himself as Dolittle's rival, but the rivalry is only in Mudfly's head, as Dolittle doesn't bother with such things. Mudfly was a hilarious villain villain reminding me of children's film villains of the 90s. They are indeed villains doing nasty things, but they're funny and stupid as they do it, and so it's fun watching their bumbling, idiotic behavior since they aren't meant to be liked. You know right away our protagonist will outwit them, and it makes it all the more entertaining when they do, once we get past the minor setbacks, of course. Antonio Banderas plays Razuli, who is, for all intents and purposes, Dolittle's father-in-law and the king of the pirates, while he embodies all of the traits of a pirate brilliantly, and I love the look of his character. I love the story and situation between Razuli and Dolittle the most. Razuli is a man who is also grieving and blames Dolittle for his daughter's death. They both find a middle ground, with Razuli realizing despite their differences, they both loved and lost the same person, and that turns Razuli into an ally. I thought this was a beautiful touch, and while it's done in a fun, elaborate way, the point is still the same, and it makes sense for Dolittle to be more scared of his father-in-law than would fly. You don't piss off a woman's father, especially when he's a pirate. The actors assembled to do the voice acting nailed it on the head. They made every animal character feel like fully realized characters. This was also thanks to the fabulous effects that brought these animals to life on the screen. Many of our animals have some backstory. They're not just animals saying funny lines. We learn a bit about them and why they act the way they do, and how they are a lot more like people than others care to think if you just stop to get to know them. The visual effects for the animals in the film in general was just beautiful and so full of life and color. It's like looking at the most vibrant storybook. It's no wonder all the children in the audience were wide-eyed the whole time. I was too. Watching this was like being a child again, and it made me feel things I hadn't in a while. I loved being able to sit there and laugh at talking animals saying the most hilarious things and doing funny things, laughing and shedding a tear at how they and Dolittle interacted, and how they were all this beautiful out-of-the-box family, helping each other, protecting each other, and loving each other. How can anyone hate that? Admittedly, I felt the Queen Victoria storyline was a little weak and ended abruptly, but I didn't care because we're all in it for Dolittle and the animals anyway. This film is set in a fictional England, and while some elements are the same as reality, many others are not. A lot of this film and its style actually reminded me of Around the World in 80 Days, not the original, I'm afraid, where you blend real world and fantasy together. I quite love that because you, if you think like a child as I do, can for the smallest moment believe that these magical lands do exist, and that you can learn to speak to animals, or dragons do exist. At the end of the day, this was a positively delightful movie about family, friendship, overcoming personal struggles and obstacles in your life, and knowing that things may be hard and you might be scared, and that's okay. With time and a little effort, you'll come out of it okay. I'm so glad I saw this film. I'm happy I saw it surrounded by kids who reminded me how I used to feel watching movies as a child, not analyzing them, not dissecting them or breaking them down, but looking at them in wonder and excitement and feeling transported and feeling all the things they wanted me to feel. I'm also glad I was able to spot some grown-ups who weren't all that grown up inside, because I got to see them laughing and enjoying themselves just as much as I was. I wish all cinema experiences could be like that, and I hope it's not too long before I experience something like that again. And now you know why I loved Dolittle, and while I will defend it till the day I die. And hell, if they decided to do a sequel, which I'm doubtful of considering how it's being panned by critics, chances are they won't, but if they did, I would totally go and see it because I loved it, and I would totally be down for a sequel. But story of my life is that movies that I love don't get sequels, and movies that I hate do. Like, Don't Breathe. That shit doesn't even make sense. It's a shame. I mean, today I woke up and I'm scrolling through social media and it was just negative Dolittle reviews all through up my feed. And some of them are by my friends, and like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. You people suck. But they're American friends. They're not Australian friends. So, is that the thing? Is it hated by Americans and loved by Australians? Mostly by Australians. Because, like I've said, I do honestly try to gauge the audience's reaction to a film to find out, am I in the minority, am I in the majority? And so, to me, seeing so many people, when I say it was packed, I mean there was barely a seat left in that theater, and everybody was enjoying it, and like, I couldn't see an upset face, and everybody was laughing, and there was just no dead air during that film. People were really enjoying themselves. So to leave and hit social media, because I saw it a couple days ago. So to hit social media and see everybody hating it, I'm like, whoa, I just went having a great movie experience and getting on the internet, and I feel deflated now. It doesn't detract from how I felt about the movie. Nobody else's opinions should affect yours. If you love it, you love it. If you don't, you don't. That's fine. I certainly would highly recommend this film to people with children or nieces and nephews, or if you're a babysitter or anything like that, because kids will love this film. I can already tell, because half the cinema was kids and they were having the time of their lives. So yeah, I would definitely say it's marketed to that kind of an audience, and I'm a big kid, so that worked perfectly for me. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. You can comment down below and share your thoughts on Dolittle in the comment section. Like I said earlier, if you want to support my channel, then you can go and check out my Patreon. You can also check out my merch on TeePublic. You can also check out my podcast by searching The Movie Oracle Presents on SoundCloud or iTunes, or any app that supports iTunes. Or you can follow me on social media. Links to everything will be down in the description box below, so check them out, don't check them out, entirely up to you. But that's it for today. Thank you as always to my amazing supportive patrons who are giving me plenty to work on this year. Thank you for that. Again, thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!